Where's Stuart? Stuart's on the screen. He's got the pledge and the prayer. And got quiet. Hey, Miss B. Everybody all masked up, man. That looks good.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, show yours.
Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Sugar Land for Tuesday, November the 17th. A little bit about our agenda tonight. In a minute, we're going to have the invocation and the pledge by Stuart Jacobson. Then we're going to have a couple special recognitions. Then we're going to go into public comment if there is any, and then ethics training, and then we'll have one oath of office and then regular city business. So, Stuart, are you ready for the invocation and the pledge?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I chose this particular invocation because of all of our cherished volunteers who are with us today. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, as the holiday of Diwali draws to a close, let us celebrate the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. Amen.
Amen.
Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Stuart. We have two recognition items. I'm going to come down on the dais, and I'll introduce both of them from down there. The first is going to be St. Teresa Catholic School, the U.S. Department of Education 2020 National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. I think we have a guest with us tonight, Mark Newcomb. Mark, are you here?
I am. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, there you are. You're back, but I thought you were going to physically be here, so you're here, you're just in the background.
Thank you so much. I'm Mark Newcomb. I'm headmaster at St. Teresa's, and I just wanted to give you a little contextual information on the National Blue Ribbon achievement here. Of the more than 140,000 schools in the United States and our protectorates, fewer than 9,000 have ever received a National Blue Ribbon School Award since the inception of the program in 1982. In 2020, only 367 institutions achieved this honor, and in the entire nation, only 50 of those were private schools. Encapsulating the vibrant ethnic diversity of the city of Sugar Land, St. Teresa Catholic School serves 215 students and 150 families with cultural ties to more than 30 countries around the globe, all with a staff and full and part-time individuals of only 29 people. All of our graduates are accepted into their top pick high school, and it's not unusual for us to have a class standardized test score in the 97th percentile in the key areas. We offer students an education that combines the wisdom of the classics with a firm foundation in faith and morals. 28 schools in Texas were named Blue Ribbon Schools this year, and our commitment to serving students in 10 grades with a two-part curriculum that integrates both faith and reason put us on track to be the single Catholic school in the Lone Star State to win the sole highest accolade that an American institution can receive. This achievement is fittingly bestowed on an incredibly talented, remarkably agile, long-serving, deeply devout staff team. Mayor Zimmerman, members of the City Council of Sugar Land, I present to you Father Angelino, our pastor, and the amazing people who create the magic that is St. Teresa Catholic School. Through toil and grace, they have accomplished what so many others have not even attempted in this year of social spacing, stay-at-home orders, and endless medical testing. With the many blessings that come with being here in Sugar Land, where life is just that much sweeter, we are humbled and honored to receive your congratulations on the achievements of this most impressive group of educators, administrators, and support staff.
Thank you, Mark, and congratulations to you and your team. And let me read the proclamation that we have for you tonight. St. Teresa Catholic School, U.S. Department of Education 2020 National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. Whereas 28 schools in the state of Texas were recognized with a 2020 National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence Award, St. Teresa Catholic School was the only Catholic institution to receive this honor. And whereas based on overall academic performance, St. Teresa Catholic School has earned this achievement in the high-performing schools category of annual Blue Ribbon recognitions and has been congratulated for being a 2020 National Blue Ribbon School by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. This prestigious honor is a testament to the teachers at St. Teresa's, the educational excellence, the teamwork, and St. Teresa's dedication to their students. Mark, to you and your team, we salute you and we congratulate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll get this proclamation to you, Mark. And again, if you'd have your team behind you, if you'd have them staff and stand and take a bow. There we go. Congratulations. Our next recognition is something that's near and dear to my heart. Many of you know that I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission from 2000 to 2008, which is where I started my city service. The two people that we're going to recognize tonight went well beyond the 8 years that I served, and other people have served 8 years. I'm going to start with the former chair, Kathy Hebner. Kathy served the city of Sugar Land in a role in 2 different times on the Planning and Zoning Commission for a total of 18 years, which is well beyond any commitment that anybody could make to the city. I know when I first started in 2000, Kathy had already been a member since 1997, and Kathy's kind of steady hand kind of mentored me along the way. I soon became chairman, and then she continued to serve and then was term limited. And then she came back again. She came back in let me get that paper clip off. She served from 1998 to 2006. We asked her to come back in 2010. She served till 2020 as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Her steady hand, and not only her steady hand, but her ability to guide the Planning and Zoning Commission during some of the toughest issues that we've captured. For example, the land use plan. It was her leadership that I think allowed us to get through that. So I want to recognize Kathy. Kathy could not be here with us tonight. Lisa, if you'd come down. We have a plaque for Kathy. Since she couldn't be here, I wanted to show it to everybody. And it recognizes her years of service with the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's really nothing that we can say to commend commend that extraordinary service. I'm going to ask Lisa to have a few words, and then I know we've got several guests that are here, and I'll ask them if they'd like to speak. We've got former Mayor Jimmy Thompson, former council member Bridget Young, former council member Russell Jones. Russell, you may be on the screen. Former council member Cyril Hosley. Cyril, I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? And we've got former council member Michael Schiff. And Michael, I think you're on the screen remote too. So in a minute after Lisa's finished, I'm going to ask each of you if you'd like to share a few words about Kathy's service. Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. And these comments, I think, will be directed to both Kathy and Carl. I think from the staff perspective, we greatly appreciate your leadership and your commitment to the city. I believe it's unprecedented, I think, in terms of the commitment that you've given to the city, and we really appreciate it. I think you can look around the entire city and see the influence that you've had through zoning processes and platting and all those things the fun things that you get to deal with on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So really just want to say thank you for your time, your commitment, your leadership. Thank you to your wife, Judy, Carl, for allowing you to serve 15 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and really appreciate your time, and I've learned a lot from you, and want to thank you for taking the time, the patience to kind of explain kind of the behind the scenes and why things are so important. Obviously, there's the way we do things here in Sugar Land. We go above and beyond, and I think your time and Kathy's time really exemplifies that. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Jimmy, would you like to come down? No. Bridget? I know Bridget and Kathy are personal friends, as are Bridget and Carl. You can, absolutely.
Jimmy asked me to speak on his behalf, so I'm speaking on both of our behalves. You know, there's so much you can say about Kathy Huebner. She is just an incredible woman. She has given so much, not just to the city, but to many other areas within our community. And I don't think people really understand how important it is to have people like Kathy Huebner and Carl. I'm going to talk on behalf of Carl also, because it takes so much time. Planning and zoning takes an incredible amount of time. City council takes a little more, but planning and zoning, you have to know so much, and you have to have a wherewithal for your city, and you have to understand how important it is that the decisions that you make will ultimately determine how our city looks. And our city is one of the most beautiful cities, as all of you know, in the state of Texas. And it's through the hard work of not only our city, our planning department, but also everybody on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and all the work they do and all the study, and all of the very tough decisions that they have to make. Many times they're here until almost midnight because people are here complaining about an issue, and they have to stay grounded, and they have to make very good decisions. So I just want to, I don't know how much we can say to thank them for their service for so many years. So I really thank both of them. And what I will say is that Kathy Huebner was a much better chairman than I was, because she was able to control Carl a lot better than I could. So no, I want to thank both of you for all your great service. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Russell, are you up there somewhere on the screen? Would you like to say something? Cyril, I know you're up there. Would you like to speak? Cyril, you're muted. There you go.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity, because while I know Carl, I don't know Carl as well as I know Kathy, but I know that they were always people who did their research. They looked at the issue. They never voted without being informed, and every decision they made was for the good of the city of Sugar Land, and you can't ask for more than that. And to do it as long as they both did it, that's the reason Sugar Land continues to be one of the best cities in the country. Thank you for the opportunity to thank them personally.
Thank you, Cyril. Michael, are you up there? Michael Schiff. Did Michael make it?
I do not see him, Mayor.
Okay. I'd also like to recognize we have a number of our current Planning and Zoning Commission members here. We've got our current chair, Matt Gallagher. Matt, if you'd stand, please. Our current vice chair, Dan Simeon. Dan? Apurva Parikh, a current member. Jay Canine. Chuck Brown. Suzanne Watley. Jim Brown. Zinat Mitha, she's Zoomed. Zinat, are you up there? And Lena Zabuni. Carl, I think, and Kathy, of course, she couldn't be here, but I think you can see the outpouring of not only love for what you guys have given back to Sugar Land, but the respect given the number of people that are here to honor you both. Carl, I'm going to ask you and Judy to come up front, please. And of course, I had the pleasure of serving with Carl too, and Bridget, like you, I can't say that I could really, Carl and I came from similar backgrounds. I can tell you that Carl was who the commission relied on to review the plats. I don't think there was ever a time that I was in a meeting where he didn't have constructive comments to those poor engineers that happened to submit those plats, and were embarrassed at the amount of detail that he went in to correct things that needed to be corrected before they were recorded. I don't think people understand the significance. I know Carl does, because as a developer, he records those documents. It's critically important to the city and to anyone that might come behind those landowners that those documents have correct information. They have the correct call notes. They have the correct lot information. They have the correct easement information. Many times, Carl made constructive comments that allowed us to correct plats so that those people that come after could actually have a full document. So, you know, I think you know how much I respect your expertise in not only as a developer, but also as a colleague on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think tonight you can see with the outpouring of the number of people how much we respect you. We were wanting to honor you tonight. Judy, thank you for sharing him with us. Carl was on the commission for 15 straight years. He came on Carl came on in 2005, right in the middle of kind of where I was, and served till 2020. And the reason that we had Carl on for so long was because of his expertise, not only in the land development side, but on the plats and land use planning. He dealt with all aspects of it as a developer. So Carl, we'd like to honor you tonight with a plaque. If you could hold that and show it to everybody. Carl was the vice chair for a number of years and the second vice chair. I know I tried to talk him into becoming the chair at one time, and he wouldn't have any part. I think Bridget, you tried to talk him into it. Kathy tried to talk you. If anybody could have gotten you there, it was Kathy. Even she couldn't get you there. So, Carl, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you from the city. Thank you from our city council. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you and Judy.
Okay, that's enough.
Well, Joe, I thank you and thank all the current council members and the other mayors and council members that over that period that was involved with, obviously, the reappointments. And I really have enjoyed the time spent. As you mentioned, been a real estate developer for 50 years, as a matter of fact. I'm getting pretty old, aren't I? But I learned a lot by being that, because the last thing you want to have to do is to undo a bad plat. That sometimes it's almost impossible. So I prided myself as a developer to make sure that they were done as correct as I could figure out. And so when I got on the commission, I took that same position. And it wasn't because I knew more than anybody else. I had the scars to show for it. And so I didn't want the city to have to go through that, or anybody to have to go through redoing plats. So anyhow, I thank you. I thank all the members of council and prior mayors and prior councils for the privilege of me serving, and that's about all I can say.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Carl. Now we're going to move to item number 1. Thomas, do we have anybody that would like to speak in public comment?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, no one signed up.
We're going to move to item number 2, the ethics training. 2A, receive training related to Sugar Land Code of Ethical Conduct and state laws regulating ethics and reporting responsibilities of city officials. We have with us our city attorney, Meredith Reedy. Meredith.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
I can be unethical now.
Carl, no, as a former official, the code still covers you.
Yeah, there you go. Carl, be careful.
I'm watching you.
The long arm of the law
I've
can
seen
still
you for
reach you.
15 years. Okay.
There you go.
So this is exciting. We're going to do this partially virtual, so I get to actually face some of the contestants tonight, as opposed to having the audience behind me. So this is very exciting. So as you can see, we're going to play a game. It's not Jeopardy, it's not Monopoly. This year, we're going to play Who Wants to Be Ethical? And because I have elevated myself to virtual training, I now have an assistant who will be working the slides for me. So what are the objectives of the game tonight? The objectives, you're going to receive an overview of our Code of Ordinances, our Code of Conduct, and you will receive the annual training that is mandated by the code. So who are our players? Meet the contestants. The contestants tonight are members of City Council, members of the Administrative and Advisory Boards, former City Council members, Administrative and Advisory Board members, including Kathy and Carl, as well as occasionally the candidates for City Council. So we're going to go over the rules of the game before we play the game, just because I want to make sure you completely understand and that you are successful and you are ethical at the end. So there's 8 basic rules I want you to keep in mind as we go. Those 8 rules are on the board. We'll go through them individually. So, rule number 1, conflicts of interest. So, for conflicts of interest, special economic benefit, you've got 2 rules I want you to remember this year. When you're dealing with conflict of interest, we're going to have a business entity, the rule of 10 and 15, and real property, the rule of 25. So, if an item is before you on the City Council agenda and it's a business entity and 10% of your gross income or 10% of your relative of the first or second degrees gross income, or you own 10% voting stock or 10% of the value of the company, you have a conflict of interest. The rule of 15 is if you own $15,000 or more of the fair market value of the business entity. And the rule of 25 is when you own real property with the legal or equitable ownership exceeding $2,500. You have a conflict. When you have a conflict, what do you have to do?
Recuse yourself.
You must file a conflicts disclosure statement, abstain, and leave the meeting room. Summarized, recuse yourself. Yes. Thank you. So, when you have a conflict of interest, shoots also could occur because you are related to a vendor, and you get to fill out that same conflicts disclosure form and file it with the city secretary's office. If you or your spouse, your parent, or your child receive taxable income from that vendor that exceeds $2,500 in the past year, or you are related to that vendor in the third degree by consanguinity or second degree by affinity. If you fail to file that conflicts disclosure statement and you go ahead and decide to vote on that item, state law says that it's a Class C misdemeanor if the contract is less than $1 million, Class B if it's $1 to $5 million, and a Class A if it's $5 million or more. And the contract could be voided and we get to start all over. So let's talk about gifts. It's Christmas time, it's holiday time, we all like to give gifts. Let's call them gifts, not bribes, because bribes are illegal. So, we ask that you brag about certain gifts. You have a form you fill out, you also file that form with the city secretary's office. What kind of gifts do you have to brag about? Gifts of lodging, transportation, entertainment, and food. So, you'll see there's a little asterisk next to the food because there's two rules with food. If the vendor wants to give you a gift card or a gift basket, then you have to brag once it rates $100. If you're sitting at the table or at an event with the vendor and you're discussing items that may be of relevance to the city, then you get up to $500. Go ahead and order that second dessert before you have to brag. And once again, you have 30 days to disclose that. The gifts, once you receive them from the vendor, it's a rolling 12 months. That could also be a Class C, Class B, Class A, depending on the value of the contract. We have had a stellar record in all the years that we have been here. Nobody has ever had a problem, and I am confident that will continue because you're all very ethical. So we have just a couple additional rules that we're going to go over right before we start our game tonight. Number one, doing business with the city. So a council member is prohibited from doing any business with the city that would exceed $1,000 in your entire term. So if you're here for one term, you're out in 2 or 3 years. If you're here for all 8 or 9 years, you get $1,000 or $999 to receive from the city during that entire time. Once you hit that last dollar and hit 1,000, you have violated the code of ethics. Number 2, representations and appearances. This, as you may know, is my favorite hat analogy. So you have to remember what hat you're wearing when you're in front of any other board or commission. So representations, that is when you're in front of another entity or another board and you're standing there. You have to make it clear whether you are representing yourself in your personal capacity or whether you're wearing your council member, board, or commission hat, because it's very important. Keep in mind, depending on what board you're in, there may be a presumption that you are always wearing that certain hat, and you have to make it extremely clear to the audience which hat you're wearing. That gets to appearances. So if you want to post something on social media or write a letter to the editor, you must state, in my capacity as a resident of Sugar Land. If you're talking in that capacity, if you're wearing your official hat, you must say, as a council member, as a planning and zoning commission member, as an animal advisory board member, I think that. You must always state which hat you're wearing so the audience knows what capacity you're speaking in. Misuse and disclosure of official information. This is something we all learned when we were little. If you're given a secret, keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. If you want to go ahead and tell somebody, it's a violation. And you'll have a nice little visit in front of our ethics board. Participation in procurement. Anytime the city spends money, we have some state laws that we have to follow. So depending on the dollar amount, we have to go out and get a certain number of bids or proposals, and sometimes just quotes if it's under a small enough amount. Staff is very well trained in this process, and we have done this for so many years. We ask that you respect the process and believe that we are in fact complying with state law and allow staff to post the proposals, the bids. When we receive those proposals and bids, staff makes a committee, they review those to make sure that all the contracts and all the bids that have received are in compliance with state law, have the necessary bid bond, performance bond, or payment bond if needed, insurance, and all other documents that must be filed. By the time they've gone through that process and have checked all the boxes, then they will bring it in front of City Council for you to vote and approve. You are welcome to ask questions. We encourage questions. But what we ask you to do is wait until the item comes on the agenda before you start going into those questions. We don't want you to go, hey, I saw this posted on the website and my buddy owns this company and I think you should hire my buddy. We're going to ask that you don't do that. Allow the staff to follow state law and then take care of it when it gets in front of you. And finally, campaign contributions. This one's really easy. All you have to do is remember that if somebody wants to sue the city and they file a lawsuit and it's seeking $25,000 or more in damages, excluding legal fees and court costs, we ask that you don't accept a campaign contribution from them, and in fact, you just return it during the pendency of the lawsuit. The purpose of this is to avoid any possibility that a citizen might think that the plaintiff is buying your vote. I know that they can't be bought because you're all ethical people, but we want to reassure our citizens that that won't happen. So I went through that very fast. So if you want to read the entire text of the code of ethical conduct, you can find it in Chapter 2, Article 4 of the city's Code of Ordinances. If you have a question, because I went real fast, you're more than happy to send me an email, phone call, talk to Cindy, and she'll pass you over to me, and I'm very happy to answer your questions. It's always better to ask in advance than have a nice little trip in front of the ethics board. As much as I enjoy spending time with them, I hope we only do hypotheticals, and we're not looking at any of our council members or boards and commission members. I can also write you a little written opinion, which is considered get-out-of-jail-free card. So if a complaint is filed against you and you get pulled in front of the Ethics Commission, you waive that little written opinion, I'm in trouble, not you. So what do you do if someone doesn't follow the rules as we play this game? Well, you have to file a written complaint. That complaint is filed with the City Secretary's office, must be in writing, signed, and sworn. Must be filed within 1 year of the violation that is alleged, or within 1 year of you discovering the alleged violation. It must contain your name, your address, and your telephone number so that if there's questions or we want to pull you in front of the ethics board to provide evidence, we know how to get in touch with you. It must also include the name and office of the person who you believe violated or allegedly violated the code, and what the alleged violation is. Once the city secretary has received that, it is then turned over to me. I have the heavy burden of reviewing it to make sure that the filing deadline has been met, that the person accused is subject to the code, that the violation is regulated by the code, and the complaint is signed and sworn. If all those are met, I pass it on to the Ethics Review Board. That is where my job ends. That's where outside counsel comes in and does provide legal advice to that board. Because if you have that get-out-of-jail-free card, obviously it would be unethical for me to represent both sides. So if those are not met, then the complaint is dismissed. If it is met, then it goes to your independent ethics review board, and I see them all up there, so hello. And so they can dismiss it as being frivolous based on 4 factors that are outlined in the code. They can investigate it. They can dismiss it because somebody has a get-out-of-jail-free card written by the city attorney. And they can also enter into a settlement agreement with the person who has been accused of violating the code. So the person could go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that's a violation. I'm so very sorry. It'll never happen again. And they don't go through the entire process when they negotiate a settlement with that person. If a settlement's not reached, then the Ethics Board will hold a public hearing and can impose some sanctions. So what are those sanctions, you say? Well, they rank from the least to the most severe. Letter of notification, admonition, written reprimand, censure, $2,000 fine. Because City Council appoints the boards and commission members, they will make a recommendation to you all if they believe that the appointed official should be removed. If they find that the behavior is incredibly egregious and such a violation, they can recommend a recall of an elected official. But because you are all voted into office, you must be voted out of office. They cannot initiate that, but they can make that recommendation to you, and I want you to know that all of these are published in the local paper and on the city's website if we ever get that far, just so the citizens will know what happened. Plus, everything is held in the open because it is a public process. So, here we go. Who wants to be ethical? First question. I'm so proud of myself for finding that. Okay. A member of City Council serves as a coach for a local youth TV game show competition team. And to raise funds to purchase new equipment and uniforms, this council member solicits donations from local developers. Is this a violation? A, B, C, or D? You want to send a check? Phone a friend. A is not correct. All right. B, excellent. So the official is using his position to secure a financial benefit. That's a conflict of interest. Next question. So we've got a member of the Parks Advisory Board who happens to own a piece of property next to Oyster Creek Park. That property is on the list for a potential purchase by the city for use as a unicycle course. The board member participates in the discussion and then votes with the rest of the board on the recommendation that City Council purchase this property. Is this a violation? A, B, C, or D? And notice that some of these can have more than one answer.
Yeah, C and D.
You guys are awesome. I'm so proud of y'all. Your second slide and you're already getting 100%. Yes, because the Parks member has a personal interest in the matter and he should have abstained from voting. It's a violation of Section 277, conflicts of interest, and the 279, needing to abstain. All right. Once again, City Council, you have a contract for $1 million with Austin Powers and Light. One of you has a daughter who happens to work for APL and has an annual salary of $75,000. What action must that council member take related to this item?
B.
You are correct. The council member is required to file a conflicts of disclosure statement and abstain because under section 171 of state law, that would be the 10% rule because the daughter has received greater than 10% of their income. Tony Stark, the owner of a technology company, is contemplating relocating his company headquarters to the industrial park in Sugar Land. After a presentation at the SLDC, he decides to go ahead and go across the street and eat dinner at the State Fair Kitchen and Bar. Excuse me. After an extremely short city council meeting, a council member and their spouse decide they are also going to go across the street and pick up dinner. Mr. Stark sees them at the restaurant, recognizes them, and offers to pick up the tab. Obviously, the council member does not want to offend Mr. Stark, being Iron Man and all. Who would want to? So the council member accepts his gracious offer. What are the council member's obligations under the Code of Ethical Conduct? A, B, C, or D?
It's either A or C.
Oh, wow. We've got like
B.
all kinds of... Okay, I will go ahead and do the 50-50. Ignore B and D.
Or B and what?
B and D are wrong, so you have to choose between A and C.
C.
A,
That's A.
because once they have come before you in an executive session or made a presentation at SLDC, they have submitted an application for economic development, and they are in fact a vendor. So you must file a conflicts disclosure form and abstain from participating. It's also a violation of 278. You will have to disclose the gift because although Mr. Stark is in the restaurant, he was not sitting at your table. So once you reach $100, you have to file that gift. But he wasn't at your table. That was a trick question. This is why you have my email, so that I can give you an answer ahead of time. You just call me up when you're at dinner going, hey, do I have to fill out this form? So, here we are, back in executive session. City Council has discussed the terms of an economic development agreement with Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. You all know the value the potential development will cause to adjacent property values. They're going to go through the roof. So prior to you all making a vote on the offer, one of you decides to purchase the adjacent property. Is that a violation?
Absolutely.
You want to tell me which letter you think applies? All right, Councilmember McCutcheon says A. Is she right? She is, because that would be the misuse and disclosure of official information. Go back to you can't share secrets. You guys are doing so good. At last month's P&Z meeting, the Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation to City Council related to converting a vacant building into the Wonka Chocolate Factory. The recommendation was 7-2 in favor of the item. One of the commissioners that voted against the item came to the public hearing at City Council to speak against the item in his personal capacity. Is this a violation?
coming in his personal capacity.
Actually, it's D. Appearances. An official must not appear before any board or commission except on his or her own behalf, which means it has to be his or her property. Because the P&Z member does not own the property that is being converted, they are now making an appearance in front of another board. And if the speech or writing is in response to criticism or other communication directed at or regarding his or her official role, they can only respond in their official capacity. Trick question. All right, we're wrapping it up here because I know you're so ethical. Due to an unfortunate train derailment, a large number of tigers were released into the city. To hold the tigers while awaiting transportation to Oklahoma, the Environmental and Neighborhood Services Department needed to purchase a large number of extra big cages. A member of the Animal Advisory Board used to work for the circus and just happened to have some laying around, and he offered to rent his surplus cages to the city. A month later, the city received a bill for $5,000. Is this a violation? A, B, C, or D?
Yes, B.
No, because the only prohibition on doing business with the city is city council members. So if you're on any other board, feel free to rent us those tiger cages. So, a city council member's commercial property neighbor has applied for a CUP to operate a Dunder Mifflin satellite office. Can the council member speak at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding the application? Bonus question, can the council member vote on the item at city council? This question has been on the last 3 years' presentations. All right, we're going to go with the P&Z commissioner back here because she got it right. So it's B, yes and no. So it's appearances. They can speak. The council member can go to P&Z because it is their commercial property, but because you're voting in your official capacity, you have to abstain because it is conflict of interest related to you.
But it should have been, can the council member speak in their personal capacity
Well,
and not,
This is who wants to be ethical. This has got to be some thought process, Mayor. I can't just give you the entire answer.
I mean, Meredith.
I need you to
Please,
think a little bit through
Trick
this.
questions. You
I-
would.
Tough this year.
I am. I want to make
Goodwin,
sure.
you must have helped her. You were over there, I know, I've seen this before.
I just
Terrell is the one, he's the guilty party, he's been involved in this.
Ethics genius level. Somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're wrapping this up. I know that everybody is excited to get on with the agenda, so let's just do the last few questions. We have a local realtor, Leo Getz. He's unhappy with a recent zoning decision that affected his property and brings suit against the city, alleging $500,000 in damages. Subsequent to filing the suit, Leo makes campaign contributions to 3 city council members. Is that a violation? I hope we have a unanimous.
Well, only if the council members accept it. I mean, give the money back, sure it is.
A, because you are prohibited from accepting campaign contributions from persons suing the city. You get a bonus $500 if you recognize the movie reference Leo Getz is from. Leo gets what Leo wants? Yes.
There we go.
Excellent. Okay, homeowners, Monica and Chandler, want to construct a bathroom to the rear of their garage. And so they will be requesting a special exception for a rear yard setback at the next ZBA meeting. Joey, their next door neighbor, frequently plays foosball with Chandler in said garage, and he also just happens to be a member of ZBA. So Joey doesn't mention to anybody that he is the neighbor of the homeowners, and at the very next meeting, he goes ahead and votes to approve the special exception. Did Joey violate the code of ethics?
Yes.
Yes. Because he is the neighbor, he has a special interest, and he might actually use that bathroom despite his thoughts in letter A. All right. A Parks Advisory Board member is planning a birthday party for Marty McFly. To aid with social distancing and the unpredictable number of guests, the board member decides to rent a city pavilion. The board member submits a reservation request that includes the statement that they think the rental and deposit fees should be waived because they are a member of the Parks Advisory Board. Is this a violation?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Any official of the city is not entitled to special access or use of city property. All right, last question. Pressure's on. At the next Building Standards Commission meeting, the commission has an item on the agenda regarding a possible substandard building. Elaine, a commissioner, decides to take a drive over the property and get a better look. While she's standing outside the house, the property owner, Cosmos Kramer, pops his head out of the roof and waves hello. Elaine and Kramer strike up a conversation related to the repairs that are needed on this house. During the discussion, Elaine mentions how much she enjoys soup. At the BSC hearing, Kramer gives Elaine a $25 gift card to Soup Kitchen International. What action should Elaine take?
She wants to really be transparent. She needs to turn down the gift card and move on with the business.
Yes, sir. All right. The technical answer is C. She remembers that she only has to disclose gifts that reach 100. Now, the mayor just pointed out.
The appearance.
The mayor just pointed out that technical compliance is not always all you have to do. Sometimes you have to keep in mind the smell test or the appearance, that even if it's not required, you might want to go ahead and disclose just because it looks better. Congratulations. You have passed another year of ethics training.
Meredith, we always enjoy this because you always come up with something different every year. I will tell you, though, the questions have gotten a lot tougher. I mean,
Just wait till next year, Mayor. I've got a whole year to prepare.
next year I'm going to write my own. That's a bit of a conflict.
Meredith, what's the statute of limitations on all this?
Oh, you finally a complaint?
1 year.
Says the former mayor, right?
I didn't even know the statute.
Thank you, Meredith. Item number 3, oath of office. And we've got, these are for boards and commissions. We do have someone in the audience tonight. I'm going to ask Mumtaz Qureshi, Building Standards Commission, if he'd come down front. Mumtaz, I'm going to have you stand right here before this microphone. You take it, man. Yeah.
I,
Mumtaz,
Mumtaz Qureshi,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of Building Standard Commission
of the City of Sugar Land,
of the City of Sugar Land,
County of Fort Bend,
County of Fort Bend,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
and to the best of my ability and preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
and the charter and ordinances of the city.
and the charter and the ordinance of the city,
And I furthermore solemnly swear
and I furthermore solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly
or indirectly paid,
or indirectly paid,
offered,
offered,
or promised to pay,
or promised to pay,
contributed,
contributed,
or promised to contribute any money
or promised to contribute any money
or valuable thing,
or valuable things,
or promised any public office
or promise any public office
or employment
or employment
as a reward to secure my appointment
as a reward to secure my appointment
or the confirmation thereof.
or the confirmation thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Item number 4, consent agenda. All the items on the consent agenda are considered routine business unless a council member wants to pull that.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to do the video for the other members that received your oath the other day?
Oh, yes, we can do that.
Thank you, sir. For the audiences, we're pre-recorded videos for the oath of office for the rest of our boards and commissions. Please enjoy.
Everybody ready? Yeah. All right, there we go.
I think I've already heard this.
I, in your name, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of your position of the city of Sugar Land, county of Fort Bend, state of Texas. And I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States. In this state, in the charter and ordinances of the city of Sugar Land. And I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money, or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or the confirmation thereof, so help me God. Congratulations.
I kind of lost interest there at the end. It was dipping real fast.
I love that. That was so good. The little head and the little scooter.
Yeah, everybody coming.
That was so nice.
All right, now we're going to move to item number 4, consent agenda. All these are considered routine business. If a council member pulls an item, we'll hear a brief presentation and we'll take action on the other items. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by McCutcheon. Do I have a second? Got a second by Kamali. Your vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, council members. Item number 5, contracts and agreements. 5A, consideration of and action on authorization of a construction contract with Matula and Matula Construction Company in the amount of $1,340,710 for lift station rehabilitation at Auburn Trails, number 401, Bay Bridge, number 28, Commonwealth, number 30, for the lift station rehabilitation project CIP CWW 2002. Andrea Broughton, Assistant City Engineer. Andrea.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. This evening, as stated, we're going to present the project information for the project that is going to be recommended for award. The project background is that this is part of the annual lift station rehab program. It had the FY20 design and FY21 construction. As you stated, the lift stations that were included in this bid were the Auburn Trail, number 401, Bay Bridge, number 28, Commonwealth, number 30, and Elkin, number 24. Next slide. Here you can see an overall location map of these 4 lift stations throughout the city. There are, as I said, there's 4 lift stations throughout the city, and there's 2 on one side of the freeway and 2 on the other side. Next slide. Project scope. The project scope of this project is for the rehab of the lift station components. These components include the valve vault improvement, new pumps, riser and header piping, electrical improvements, wet well recoating, SCADA connectivity improvements, and other miscellaneous improvements as needed. Next slide. The contractor selection process included the bid package for the 3 lift stations in the base bid, which were Auburn Trails, Bay Bridge, and Commonwealth, and then the one lift station was as an alternate, it was the Elkins lift station. The bid advertised on September 23rd and September 30th of this year. We received 3 bids on October 15th, and 1 bid was actually deemed non-responsive and not evaluated. Next slide. In summary, the bid summary was we received the 3 bids, Matula Construction Inc., RJ Construction Company, and TNG Services. The low base bid amount was $1,340,710, with the ad alternate $316,500, with a total of $1,657,210. The available budget for this project is $1,463,000, and therefore staff recommends to award the base bid items only for $1,340,710. Next slide. Project funding. The funding needs for this project include, of course, the construction for the base bid items only, 5% contingency, which is $67,035.50, and of course the construction administration, which for this project is $24,800. So the total funding needed for the complete project is $1,432,540.50. This is within the available budget of $1,463,000. Next slide. The project schedule. If this project is awarded by the council this evening, we plan to give the notice April this year with a substantial completion of 270 calendar days. Next slide. Regarding the construction impacts, the notification, construction impacts, the project is on city property and we do not anticipate any sanitary sewer service encroachments. Regarding the notification plan, it is per policy CO-110. We are going to utilize door hangers. The project will be in the area. Mail outs will be if needed. Communications. Next slide. Tonight we have a recommendation to the council for approval of a construction contract with Matula Construction Inc. for lift station rehab at Auburn Trails, Bay Ridge, and Commonwealth lift stations, CIP CWW 2002, in the amount of $1,310,710.
Questions of the council? Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. Has Matula Construction done work for the city previously?
Yes, they have done numerous projects within the city. They're actually wrapping up the lift station rehab project that we have currently going on, and they are projected to be scheduled with that in January 2021. So just a couple of months from now.
Okay, great. I thought I recognized the name. Thank you.
Yes.
Michelle?
Thank you, Mayor. Andrea, you had something on there for $300,000 and some odd thousand, the additional bid. What was that work for? Is that something that's needed, or is that just, I don't know what that is.
I'm sorry.
Three slides back on, can you show the slides?
I think he's talking about the alternate, Andrea.
Okay. Is that what you referred to? The alternate?
There's an
alternate?
additional bid for like $340,000.
Yeah, so the project included 4 lift stations, but and we put in the bid documents that the 4th lift station would be an ad alternate, and if we received a beneficial bids to the city, we would go ahead and award that, but we did not receive the benefits of the market as we anticipated.
Perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Got a motion by Kamali, second?
Second.
Got a second by Lane? Your voters this time, please. And That passes 7-0. Thank you, council members. 5B, consideration of an action on authorization of a construction contract with IBC Construction LLC in the amount of $269,940 for the fuel tank replacement Phase 1 project, CIP CMU 1905, and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $75,000 from the general CIP fund balance to CIP CMU 1905. Greg Nichols. Greg, our senior project manager. Greg.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Let me give you a little background on the subject project. The city has 2 fueling locations. They are at Gillingham and Austin Parkway. There are 4 tanks at the Gillingham location, which is Public Works. There are 3 are 35 years old. They have exceeded their useful life and therefore have an increased environmental risk due to the age. The city is taking proactive measures in replacing the tanks. Next slide, please. This is just a project area map that shows the location of the Public Works facility there in the yellow box. Next slide. Scope of work. Base bid includes removing from service the 3 oldest tanks. The tanks are 35 years old, 1 diesel tank, 12 years old, to remain in place. Install a new 10,000-gallon above-ground unleaded fuel tank, install piping and monitoring sensors. Connection to the city's existing fueling system, existing fueling canopy to remain. Next slide. The project was bid with 3 add alternate items. Number 1 was replacing the 3 existing fuel dispensers. Alternate number 2 was removal of the 3 oldest underground fuel tanks. Number 3, replacement of canopy lighting. Next slide. Contractor selection. Invitation to bid was advertised on September 2nd and 9th of this year. Pre-bid meeting was held September 10th. Contractor site visit was done September 11th. Bids were opened on September 24th. We received 5 bids. Next slide. Here's the bid summary. Low bid was IBC Construction with a total bid base plus all 3 alternates was $269,940. As you see at the bottom, our engineer's cost estimate was $606,864. Next slide. Project funding, construction contract, base bid plus all 3 alternates is $269,940. We're seeking $67,560 in contingency. Total funds needed for construction and contingency would be $337,500. The available budget in CIP CMU 1905 is $262,500. We are seeking a budget amendment from the CIP general fund balance of $75,000, which bring the total funds requested to $337,500. Next slide, please. Schedule. Notice to proceed December 2020. Contract duration 180 calendar days, which puts substantial completion May 2021. Next slide. Construction impacts and notification. Construction on city property within fences, no public service interruptions. Impact to city staff will be minimal. Next slide. Recommendation, approval of a construction contract in the amount of $269,940 with IBC Construction for the fuel tank replacement, CIP CMU 1905, and approval of a $75,000 budget amendment from CIP general fund balance to CIP CMU 1905. Next slide. Questions?
Yeah, Greg, we have a question from Councilmember Porter. Have the tanks ever leaked before?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay.
Question.
Stewart?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Greg, on the previous item that Ms. Broughton presented, there was a line item for construction management, but I didn't see a line item for construction management in this project. What's going on?
Construction management for this project was included in the original contract we did with the consultant, so there will be no need for an additional contract.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Jennifer?
About how long would it take to get the diesel tank online, do you think?
Diesel tank is not being removed. Well, one of the older tanks is diesel that's being removed, but there is one tank that's remaining, the 12-year-old tank that's going to stay in place. So there will be diesel there as well as unleaded fuel. But actually going to be a phase 2 of this project years down the road to install another above-ground diesel tank.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
William, go ahead.
Sir, I am assuming there are restrictions or guidelines related to fuel tanks that are above ground compared to below ground surface. Is that, are those restrictions why we're going above ground now?
Yes, sir. Above ground it is kind of the direction the industry is going, basically because the restrictions are less restrictive, and it's just, in layman's terms, it's a lot easier to determine, hey, I've got a leak in an above ground tank, I can see it. It's not leaking underground and creating a problem that nobody knows is going on.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion by McCutcheon. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a second by Kermally. You vote at this time, please. And it passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, council members. Item number 6, workshop 6A, review of and discussion on the 2020 Sugar Land Charter Amendment Transition Plan. Meredith Reedy, our city attorney. Meredith, I think you're virtual now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of tonight's workshop is to discuss very briefly with you the adoption of the amended language for the charter and how you would like to transition the city council from 2-year terms to 3-year terms. Next slide, please. So on the screen in front of you are the 9 propositions that were presented to the voters, and all 9 passed. And so I won't go over them because obviously they're sitting there in front of you and I'm sure you voted for them. Next slide, please. So what you're going to see at your December 1st meeting is an ordinance that contains the language of all those charter amendments plus the plan you discussed tonight. So you have 2 options to transition from 2-year terms to 3-year terms. Keeping in mind that the charter proposition stated that the transition will occur beginning with the May 2021 election. So everybody that was elected or re-elected this past November is still serving a 2-year term. The first 3-year terms do not start until next May. And so you have 2 options. You can extend the current terms or you may cut them short. So if you'll look at the next slide, please, you'll see a chart. And this chart shows you the year in which each council member has been elected and how the application of transitioning to a 3-year term will affect their terms. On the far right side is a yellow highlighted column, and that shows you the options. So the mayor will have served 9 years when his 3rd-year term is up. And then you have Councilmember Ferguson all the way down to Councilmember McCutcheon, and it tells you their options as far as the number of years they serve. We discussed this quite a bit during the Charter Commission workshops, but this was never extensively taught to City Council, so I wanted to have your public consensus as to which direction you prefer to go. I will note that the Charter Commission did recommend that we follow the language that the City of Houston used a number of years ago, and they based it on whether the incumbent was in their first term or their second term as whether or not they receive an extra year at the end. So at this point, I turn it over to you for discussion and providing you direction as to which, the chart went away, as to which plan you'd like to see. We can put the chart back up there if you'd like.
Yeah, put the chart back up there, Maris. That way everybody can see it. That way we can talk around it. There you go.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Stuart.
thank you. Meredith, I don't have to submit a disclosure or anything, do I? Ethical disclosure because I was on the Charter Review Commission?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks.
But I do appreciate you pointing it out.
Here's the gist of what happened. And that is that if we extend, then we go way past, except that it only really affects Jennifer and Carol. So it's, 11, 10, 11, 11, 10, that's a long time, and that's why the Charter Review Commission, is well in excess of what was originally contemplated in the original charter. So that's why we recommended the no extension, but I can't speak for Jennifer and Carol, because they're the ones who are genuinely affected. The rest of us would have at least the 8 years, which is all we were really entitled to, God forbid, that we were all only able to earn in the first place.
Carol?
Yes, obviously, we've always been able to serve 4 2-year terms, but the charter allowed for a total of 9 years of service, which means that a council member could fill a vacancy for a year in addition to their 8 years. And so, for council member Lane and myself, we would actually be losing 2 years of service if a one-time waiver of the 9-year term limitation isn't granted. So from my perspective, thinking, 10 is closer to 9 than what 7 is on that. The position, it's a lot of work. We're essentially volunteers, and you need to have really thick skin, and you need people who are really committed, knowledgeable, and willing to serve. This year, we had a seat that came open for at-large, and the seat had been held by Councilmember Gandhi for 8 years. I'd expected 5 or 6 people at least to file for this position. There were 2. Last year, we had a district election. That seat had been held by someone for 8 years. I had expected at least, 2 or 3 people to apply file for that position, and we had 1. So, of course, a very high quality one, I must admit. And so I guess I think cutting back to 7 from 9 would fall short. So I would support a one-time waiver to that for at least either for all or for at least Councilmember Lane and I. And of course, that would just give us the option, not that we would necessarily want to serve for a 4th term, not that we would necessarily keep getting reelected even to be able to file for that, but at least it would preserve that option.
Anyone else? Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to each one of you, and I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are on it, and then this is merely for discussion. The vote comes later. So this is actually just a discussion item for right now.
I'm okay with starting a year term.
The way it is on here, 7 years, I guess, because normally it would be 8, right?
Right.
So, in order to get everything back on schedule, I'm okay to be flexible with that, so.
Okay. No, Shad?
Yeah, so it doesn't personally affect me. It affects the 2 ladies on the diocese, and I've heard both of them. Right?
But,
I do think 10 is a long time. 11 is a long time, for sure. Mayor, you're getting 9, rightfully so, deservedly so. I'm open to letting them do the tenure as well, if it's a one-time exception.
Stuart, any thoughts?
Yeah, if it's possible to do a hybrid, I would like to see Jennifer and Carol have the opportunity to stretch it out to 10 if they felt that was right, and then let the rest of us just keep us coming ahead of us, because we would still, if we had 8, for instance, Nishad and I had 8, we could still serve a 9th as a appointee, as a fill-in or something. So it's not hurting us at all. It's not hurting William at all. I'm in favor of just making the exception for Carol and for Jennifer.
I'm okay with that, too.
Okay. William,
A waiver this one time.
thoughts?
I'll be candid with you. Dumbing this down for me is always a good idea. I certainly want to make the right decision because we do have great leaders in the room, and I want to step away from this, and because as Councilman Kermally said, this doesn't affect me necessarily. I'll be candid with you, Mayor. I have no preference here.
Okay. Carol?
I concur with Councilmember Jacobson.
Yeah, here's where I come down. Right now, as everyone knows, we serve a maximum of 4 2-year terms. The direction of the Charter Review Commission was actually 2 3-year. We extended it to 9 years, 3 3-year. So if I go back to the original recommendation, my preference is that we err on the side of where the Charter Review Commission is, which is the lesser terms. For all the district council members, they can run for, mayor if they feel they've got something to contribute there. And I think the electorate, they did pass it. So they clearly knew that there were 3 3-year terms. That's 9 years. I don't think anybody ever expected to be 10 or 11. So for me personally, I'm going to err on the side of less is more. That's just where I am.
Councilman Porter has commented in the chat that he supports the one-time exception option.
Okay. All right, I think you know where everybody is, so I'd tell you to put it forward as an action item. Is that right, Mike? Meredith, is that where we're going?
Yeah, Mayor, if we could, it'd be helpful. What I'm hearing is a majority of doing the hybrid option that that Stuart brought up. So that's what we'll move forward with.
Well, that's what you move forward with, and then we'll vote it.
Yes, sir.
So,
As far as
but as far as the recommendation, you're going to go with the majority for the recommendation.
yes, that's what I was making sure I understood that. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. All right, item number 6B, review of and discussion on the Mobility Master Plan. We've got Monique Johnson, Transportation and Mobility Innovation Officer, Ruth Lomer, City Planner Long Range, Alini Pappas, Traffic Engineer, TEI, Traffic Engineers, Inc., and Ho-Jin Lim, Mobility Task Force Chair. We got them loaded up tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. So yes, as you can see, there are several of us presenting tonight. I wanted to take a moment and recognize several task force members that are on the call, or were on the call earlier during the Charter Commission presentation. We have Ho-Jin Lim, who is our chair for the task force, who will be presenting tonight. We have Carla Block, who is our vice chair. And then we have David James, who is a mobility task force member. And we had Robbie Aurora attending the call earlier. And then we had Tim Hart and also Sanjay James. So we have several tonight to support. And so we'll be jumping back and forth between presenters. And so I'll start it off with Ruth.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. So this is our agenda for this evening. I'm going to start by giving you just a brief reminder of the project background, and then Monique is going to talk to you about the development of the Mobility Master Plan, and then we will hand it off to Elaine, who's going to talk to you about the state of Sugar and mobility, and Ho-Jin will talk to you about the Mobility Task Force insights and direction, and then Monique will come back and talk about our next steps. Next slide. Go ahead. Okay, so during this project, we are looking to goal G of the comprehensive plan, and that is really the focus of our efforts, is to achieve superior mobility and really define what that means for Sugar Land today and going into the future. Our focus is on moving people and goods, and we are looking to provide residents, visitors, and tourists with multiple transportation options to choose from within Sugar Land. This new plan will provide citywide strategic guidance for all modes of transportation, moving away from our kind of singular mode plans that we have today. And we'll also be creating some separate planning processes to focus on issues in specific areas and for specific mobility programs. Next slide. So today, our existing mobility structure, we have the overall comprehensive plan, which addresses a lot of different areas and is kind of the broader vision for the community. And then there are two official master plans that address mobility, the master thoroughfare plan, which really deals with our roadways, and then the pedestrian and bicycle master plan, which deals with the pedestrian and bicycle network. And then we have a guiding document, the comprehensive mobility plan, which is a lot like a master plan, and we treat it a lot like a master plan, but it's not one of our official master plans. So as we've implemented these plans over the years, we've run into some challenges because there are cases where these plans either overlap or there are gaps. And sometimes we have differing direction between them as we go to implement them. And so we are modifying our planning process. We'll go to the next slide, so that we will have still the comprehensive plan, which will be the overarching vision, but then we're going to be integrating those other three plans that I just showed you into one citywide mobility master plan, and that's what we're working on now. And then in the future, we will be implementing some small area and corridor plans that will look more specifically at particular areas of the city, and it'll allow us to engage the people that are going to be most affected by particular mobility solutions in specific areas of the city. Next slide. So far this year, in fiscal year 20, you may remember this, we created the Mobility Task Force late last year, and that includes 23 members, which you'll hear more about later. And we also went through a request for qualifications process and selected Traffic Engineers Inc., TEI, as our consultant to help us through the process. And then we developed a project scope where we divided the project into two phases. Phase one includes the vision, goals, strategies, and metrics, and that's where we are today. And then phase two will be the policy guidance and implementation framework. This plan is really going to be based heavily on both community engagement and also data. So there's really going to be a balance between the data-driven process and hearing from the community. Next slide. So with that, I'll hand it over to Monique. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. So really, to build a successful mobility plan, there are several things that we need to focus on. So focusing on a community is one of those things, appointing the mobility task force and really doing a lot of that public engagement and outreach to several stakeholders in the community. Then it's creating a call to action, understanding why we're doing the plan, and then defining those right strategies to help us accomplish those goals that we develop. And of course, building momentum, not only through the beginning phase, but carrying that momentum throughout the plan development process, and then of course, even further through implementation. Next slide. So right now we are working on there are several tasks associated with developing the mobility master plan. So building that strong foundation is really where we've spent the past several months, meeting with the task force on a monthly basis, engaging outside agencies such as TxDOT, HGAC, a lot of those agencies that are stakeholders in our mobility system. And so getting that upfront engagement was really a part of building that foundation. And so now we're working on finalizing our case for action. So this is the why. Why are we doing this mobility plan, and why are we doing it now? And so we've had some very interesting conversations with the task force about this, and really got some great feedback. They're really pushing us to really think about why we're doing this plan. And so we're wrapping up with that, and then we're also going to develop a set of vision and goals. And so we'll be starting that process here very soon. And a lot of that will be based on that work that we've done for the case for action. So the vision and goals will pretty much ask the question, where do we want to go? And then we'll develop strategies and metrics. So how are we going to measure our progress towards achieving our goals? And then we'll have recommendations. So what are we going to do to get there? And then developing that implementation framework that helps us prioritize how we move forward, how we decide, what the priorities up front, and how to prioritize projects that come out of the plan. Next slide. So as Ruth mentioned, this is really focused on a very robust community engagement
We have the Mobility Task Force. We have a group of technical advisors. So again, that's TxDOT, HJC, Union Pacific, several public agencies that we have to deal with on a daily basis with projects. But now we're wanting to get them involved up front through the planning process. So we've been meeting with them. We've been engaging the business community, working with economic development on that aspect, getting the word out to them. We have plans to engage the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council as well, so understanding that, mobility affects people of all ages, so getting that input from that younger group of people. And then, of course, engaging Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. We presented to Planning and Zoning Commission last week, really introducing the project to them. And then, of course, we have our update with you tonight, and we plan to have periodic updates throughout the process. We'll also have community meetings, whether that's virtual or in person, throughout the process. And we have recently launched our public survey, so that's been out for about a few weeks now. And so we're really getting a lot of responses to that, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. And we've also developed a project website, so that's where people can find out more about the plan, get an idea of what the task force is doing, learn who the task force is, since they are representing the community, and just any other information that they're interested in knowing about the project. Next slide. So as Ruth mentioned, we're currently in phase 1, so we're developing the vision, goals, strategies, and metrics. And so we anticipate this phase, we started back in March when the project initiated, but we anticipate it lasting all the way through August of next year, so August 2021. Some of the deliverables associated with this phase include the key engagement plan, which we completed, and then also a state of Sugar Land mobility. So we have a draft of that completed and available on the project website. And what that is pretty much a summary and an assessment of the current conditions in Sugar Land. So it's a snapshot of our current mobility network. We are in the process of wrapping up our case for action. We plan to take that to the Mobility Task Force, another iteration of that to the task force in December. And then we'll start our vision and goals development this month and carry that forward through April. And so that's when we'll come back to both Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to get feedback and buy-in from that. Next slide. So as I mentioned, task 1 is building a solid foundation. We've developed a community engagement plan. We've completed 5 mobility task force meetings to date. We've had one-on-one interviews with you all, just to get an understanding and an idea about everyone's viewpoints and perspectives on the current mobility system. And then we've also met with our technical advisors group and recently met with our surrounding cities. So we're engaging our neighbors as well. So that's Missouri City, Meadows Place, Richmond, Rosenberg, Houston, Stafford, all of those communities that border us, we're engaging them in this effort as well. Next slide. So we've also completed a detailed review of our current mobility plan. So just really assessing, the content that's in there, how the things that we experienced with implementation, and really looking at, how they all align, and some of the things that we want to address in this plan, but also some of the good things that we think we should carry forward. The state of mobility, again, there's a draft available online for that. And then we're in the process of developing the case for action. Next slide. So phase 2 will focus more so on the policy guidance and implementation framework. We anticipate that starting in August of 2021 next year and continuing through July of 2022. We plan to have 2 large public meetings during that time frame. Hopefully we'll be able to meet in person, but whatever the circumstances is at that time, we'll figure something out so we can definitely get the rest of the community engaged in this process as well. So the phase 2 deliverables will be the strategies and metrics, priority networks, and policy and program recommendations. And then we'll have the performance-based implementation framework. So that's that data-driven process that we'll be developing through this project. And then we'll have the final plan that we will bring forward for adoption. And then the pilot plan for the smaller area plans that Ruth mentioned earlier, just to understand, what that process would look like and how we can carry that forward to other future planning efforts. Next slide. So with that, I will hand it off to Eleni Pappas with Traffic Engineers.
Thanks, Monique. Hello, everybody. For those who have had the pleasure of meeting, hello again, good evening. For those who have not, my name is Eleni Pappas, and I'm the project manager for the consultant team of the Mobility Master Plan. If you didn't meet me during the interviews, you met Jeff Carlton, the principal in charge on this project. He's also on the call tonight. As Monique said, I'm going to present a little bit of an overview of the state of Sugar Land Mobility, our baseline conditions and insight development of a chapter we created of a bunch of data that we pulled, because as both Ruth and Monique stated, being able to make data-driven decisions is really essential. This is the first step of doing that, and we always want to have come back to data as one of the key parts and the key inputs into this planning process. So we built a large report that you can check out online. It's really lovely. And what we did with that is we really want to try to understand Sugar Land and how people are getting around and where they want to go. So we sort of just did an overview of just Sugar Land in general. And then we wanted to see where people were living and working to understand kind of the origin and destination. Then we wanted to see, where they're going. Where's the key destinations, the other exciting places that could flow out of their homes. And then how are they traveling? And then what are the networks that they're using to travel? Then we also want to understand safety implications of the area and the health and mobility and the ties between all of those elements within the city of Sugar Land. Now, I'm not going to it's late. I could go through all of this. But what I really want to share with you is the 10 key insights that came out of this work as sort of the kind of high-level overview. And I'm going to tell you stuff that you guys already know, but I hope to share something new that maybe you didn't know about the city of Sugar Land. Next slide, please. So the first insight that came out of the state of Sugar Land mobility process is that Sugar Land is entering a new phase of the city's life cycle. What we're talking about here is that from the founding to today, the city has had exponential growth. We've been on that upward curve for a while, but you're starting to plateau. The city's becoming more built out. There's less areas for annexation. And the way the city is going to grow is going to be different than it was in the previous decades when annexation of master plan communities was something that was done. And that was a key part of your revenue base. So not only that, but you have an aging population, an aging housing stock, and aging retail as development and homes are kind of getting a little bit older. So thinking about the implications of that and how to continue to be a successful city, you want to continue to be on the upward path at all times. So thinking about redevelopment and how redevelopment will work for the city of Sugar Land. The 2018 land use plan took a big look at this. And it's actually a figure that you might have seen from that plan. So we want to make sure that we are building a transportation mobility network and plan that aligns that land use plan and aligns with the city of Sugar Land today, where you are and where you want to go into the future. Next slide, please. So insight 2. I have a feeling you guys know this one. Sugar Land is a regional hub of employment and entertainment. You guys have invested in some fantastic things, and I think I read a tweet today or yesterday about the Skeeters maybe making some inroads with the Astros. So just really wonderful things happening in the state of Sugar Land that make people not only within Fort Bend County, but within the Houston region want to come to your city. So you have these fantastic destinations, but you're also a hub of really fantastic employers. So people have wanted to base their businesses here, and they want to and have their employees come and be part of the Sugar Land community. So you start looking at how people are out of Sugar Land. 86% of Sugar Land residents work outside the city, and then 89% of Sugar Land employees live outside the city. So while a lot of people are getting around in the city, there is a need to look regionally about how people need to get to where they want to work and currently work, and then how they actually, the ones who do work in Sugar Land, are able to get here. Next slide. Insight 3. There is an increasing importance to optimize the city's existing assets and technology investments. You guys have done a fantastic job investing in transportation technology. And it's something it's really impressive, and I think you are a regional leader in that. You really maximized the utility of the assets you have by using technology, your ITS systems, your signal coordination, and the fact that it's so adaptive, and the fact that you're taking real-time data all the time. It's really wonderful, and that has made you successful and made you really be able to think through the mobility. That's going to become incredibly important as we move into the future and the area around Sugar Land grows. So there's going to be more demand on Sugar Land's networks, and you need to think about how you're utilizing that space. Insight 4. Next slide, sorry. Sugar Land has developed as a city of neighborhoods, resulting in a large growing percentage of short trips. So what do I mean by this? So the development of the city of neighborhoods, I think this is kind of about the annexation methods of master plan communities. Those communities have residents, they have retail, they have all these kind of self-contained items that made them really desirable for people to live in. So as you kind of annexed all these little neighborhoods, and the 2018 land use plan really looked at those neighborhoods and those neighborhood activity centers and really put an emphasis on thinking about how those should continue to kind of prosper into the future. And because you have those activity centers within neighborhoods, you actually have a large percentage of short trips. And short trips that are 3 miles or less. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. So, what does that mean? So when I talk about trips, what do I mean? So I talked about commute a little bit earlier on Insight 2. But when you start looking at every trip or every kind of trip anybody makes that starts in Sugar Land, there's lots of different trips you can take. You can go to work, that's your commute trip. That's your home-based work trip, the light blue on the slide in front of you. But you can also go to the grocery store, or go to school. You can also make a trip from the grocery store to the dry cleaner as you're running your errands. So there's all these different types of trips that happen. And so often in transportation planning and mobility, we think about that commute trip and put a lot of emphasis on moving people and those peak times, which is critical and important. But when you start looking at how many trips we make in our daily lives, only 13% of trips are home directly to work. So we start looking at all of these other types of ways people get around and are moving. You start to see that people are going from home to somewhere else that's not work, and that's 50% of the trips that they take that start at their home. And this is all pre-COVID, and so I'm sure that with COVID, these are again changing, and the way we change and the way we're moving is constantly changing. So thinking about trips is more than just that commute trip. It's something we really want to make sure we're doing. Next slide, please. And then back to that concept of short trips. When you start looking at each of these trips and how long they are, you start to see that 31% of trips that occur that start within Sugar Land are 3 miles or less. The reason we look at 3 miles is 3 miles can easily be you can ride a bicycle 3 miles in about 15 minutes, and then you walk about 1 mile in 20 minutes. So they're kind of just thinking about short trips in terms of other modes. So how many trips are considered short trips? So that's like walking to your kid to school, maybe walking to dinner. Those are things that can be done by different modes. So thinking about that kind of holistic way people are getting around. The chart on the bottom is looking at the short trip percentage by each of those 4 trip types I presented on the previous slide. And what you see is home-based work trips, only 10% are 3 miles or less. That's not surprising. You've got people going all over the region to their jobs. Some work in Sugar Land, some work downtown. When you start looking at those home-based non-work trips, 35% of those are 3 miles or less. So thinking about maybe providing other opportunities for people to get around in different ways is one of the things we're going to start looking at as we move forward. Next slide, please. So, you'll have fantastic sidewalks. You've invested in a great network of sidewalks. But what we start to see is that, one, as sidewalks get older, tree roots. I mean, it's going to be a constant battle between sidewalks and tree roots. So, they can be better maintained. But there's also connectivity concerns and questions. A lot of times the sidewalk may end abruptly, or at the intersection, while there is a curb ramp, it's not really easy to access. So it's one of the things we want to start looking at is how to complete that network of sidewalks, and those investments that you have invested in, how to make sure that they're actually being utilized by people who want to walk because they're actually able to get to where they want to go. Next slide. Insight 6. Sugar Land has made progress on bikeways and trails, but they have not fully connected, they have not become a fully integrated network. The Gulf Trails Network is really, really wonderful. But one of the things that we keep looking at and keep hearing from our MTN members too is, are those trails getting me to where I want to go? And so starting to think about a holistic network and connectivity. So while it's great, such a large part of the city, which is all the peach in the map in front of you, has access to trails within a 4th mile of a bikeway, making sure that bikeway can get them to where they want to go is part of thinking about mobility holistically. The next slide, please. There's another part of thinking about bikeways and trail access a little bit too. It's not just about providing it, it's about making sure it's comfortable. You want to be comfortable if you're cycling on a trail or cycling on a street that has a bike lane. And so there's a concept called level of stress that we're going to come back to and talk about more in the future. But it's a way of thinking about that comfort level for a cyclist. And it's an assessment we did of all streets in Sugar Land. We looked at number of lanes, vehicle speeds, vehicle volumes, and thought about if you were cycling on it, would you be comfortable, would you be stressed? And so thinking about this network and building a network of good, low-stress, comfort bikeways is something that we're going to kind of continue to evolve as we move forward, and building on that basis of the strong trail network. Next slide. Insight 7. So this is where we start kind of pulling together a lot of what we've already talked about. best practices in street design are evolving to consider all users. Cities with high quality of life are rethinking how they design and operate their streets and address barriers to mobility. So thinking about a holistic view of how that public right-of-way is being used, that asset, that critical asset, is it accommodating everybody who needs to be accommodated on that street? Not every street needs to accommodate everybody, but starting to think through where people need to be and making sure it's a safe, controlled place for them to be. Next slide. This is one I know that I'm not telling you anything new. Barriers are continuously going to be a problem that we want to think through. You have natural barriers like the Brazos River, going to be a hard one. But then there's also the highways and freeways, and even just major streets and intersections can be a barrier for somebody who's walking, does not feel safe crossing that busy collector street. So thinking about how barriers can minimize the impact of barriers for all users, and making sure you have access to where you want to go and you're not being hindered. Next slide. So Insight 8, Sugarland residents use transit. It's critical to think through its role in the city's future. So currently there's 2 park and rides within the city of Sugarland and 1 metro park and ride outside the city of Sugarland. There's also citywide demand response service that's provided by Fort Bend County Transit. What we've come to realize is that both of these park and rides are utilized, as well as we can tell that the West Belfort park and ride has a lot of Sugarland residents who use it based on a license plate survey that was conducted by Metro. So you have Sugarland residents using these assets that currently exist. Transit's also really useful to think about into the future as mobility and trips continue to increase and populations increase around Sugarland. It's the most efficient way to move people in a limited amount of space. So I did mention this before, but Fort Bend County, I think, is projected to grow about 4% per year. So while you guys are kind of plateauing and hitting that growth top, everything around you is growing really quickly. So thinking through all of these things and how they integrate and how to maximize that use of space to get people where they want to go. Not only getting people out of Sugarland that need to work elsewhere, but really most importantly, getting people into Sugarland who want to come to these great destinations that you have. Next insight, please. Next slide. Next slide. The other way. Thank you. So Insight 9, the city has an opportunity to better balance investments with state of mobility goals. Monique touched on this earlier when she talked about what we've already done. We did this plan review. It was really essential for us to understand what's been done before, how those goals were implemented, and then kind of how projects came out of those plans for us to understand how to make this plan really effective and useful for the city moving forward. And really what we came to realize is that there is a lot of alignment in what y'all done before, but sometimes what gets implemented is not always in alignment with what was said we should do. This plan, in fact, this plan is going to sit under 3 departments, and it's really a holistic view of mobility for the city, not just the city itself, but like the city operations side of it, like you guys, the administration of the city is going to allow for that opportunity to develop a more implementation for a framework that's more holistic and able to really get down what you guys say you want to do back here in the goals development part of things. Next slide. So Insight 10. Many cities' mobility goals are evolving to integrate safety, health, and environmental leadership, supporting quality of life for residents. So I think this is even most important today during this pandemic times, but as we move forward, as mobility planning changes, people are really thinking about things in a holistic way, thinking about the fact that safety is super critical to getting around every way, and our network should be safe. Health and mobility continually see stats that show that have the importance of those 2 things, that having multiple multimodal networks actually increases people's health and the impacts of that. And environmental leadership, it's actually something that is stated in y'all's 2025 comp plan, is wanting to have environmental responsibility, environmental leadership. So all of these elements are kind of part of thinking about mobility today. They're all interconnected. And cities who are taking on big planning initiatives like you guys are thinking about the impact they all have to each other. Next slide. So as I said, safety is super important. This map on the right is sort of showing hotspots of safety activity in the area. The darkened spot, the worst, the number of crashes. But we want to look at kind of a comprehensive view of the city, see where things are unsafe, understanding that, and then try to help you guys think about ways to improve safety. I don't want to take Hojan's some things he may or may not be saying in a few slides, but the MTF has really every meeting we talk about safety. They came in wanting to talk about safety, they make sure we talk about safety every meeting, and they keep following up on safety. It is something that we continually have heard, and so safety is going to be a big part of this plan based on the that we've currently received. Next slide. And this again is just really showing the interconnectedness of safe mobility choices, higher physical activity, easy access to care, and better air quality can lead for healthier quality health outcomes that can improve. And
all of that's tied to quality of life. I feel like I've never interacted with a city like Sugar Land, where quality of life is so important to who you guys are, who Sugar Landers are. And I think we want to make sure that we are building a plan that is supporting the initiative of quality of life for all residents and all visitors and community members that come to Sugar Land. Next slide. Now I'm going to pass it off to Ho-Jin.
Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate your presentation. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. So I'm going to give you the perspective of from the task force. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Ho-Jin Lim. I am the chair for the Mobility Task Force. And I want to give you a perspective from the Mobility Task Force member. And currently, as y'all have alluded to, or at least assigned us to a 23-member resident business community representatives. We bring a diverse background of not only their work, but also their interests. As is shown on the chart here, there are mobility representations and interests. And of course, everyone's interest is in the vehicle state, the motorist and the motorist. But also there's other interests stemming from not only transit, people with disability. Some of my items I always bring in is part of being a runner, as a bicyclist, a senior, just how we want to walk from one location to another. So next slide, please. So as part of the task force, we've actually met 5 times already. I think it's been a successful meeting. And every meeting we've always had a good representation and great discussion. As part of that meeting, we're able to share personal mobility goals and desire for Sugar Land and where we're going with Sugar Land. We've been a sounding board for the plan review and state mobility. And as part of the meetings, pre-meetings, we've had homework, reading assignments, which has been fantastic. The articles have been giving us good leads into what we're going to be meeting next. We also have participated in multiple self-guided city tours, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. And I think being able to provide insight and clear direction from the resident's point of view to the city, and we're all being engaged, we're excited, and not only that, we're stressing the importance of being bold, meaning that we want to be able to speak forward in terms of giving our opinions on how we want to see Sugar Land, where we're going to go with. Next slide, please. As part of that, as mentioned before, as part of the Mobility Task Force self-guided city tours, I personally had gone through running around the city of Sugar Land. I biked all over the place, and I even took a driving tour. I think it was a fantastic tour that the staff had put together. And as part of the 5 tour options, it gave us lots of insight on places that I've never been, along with many other members as well. And as you see, the lists are in front of you. And I think it gave us a very good snapshot of where we are and where we want to go, at least in terms of the tours that it provided us. Next slide, please. So the insight from the Mobility Task Force tours, and I think I want to give you some examples of the 3 main takeaways about the tours some of the members have provided, which first is the Sugar Land is a beautiful and diverse place. They thought that their tour was really confirmed what they had always known, and it gave them an opportunity to really see the areas, the sidewalks, and that may be inconsistent with, which in turn is variations in certain locations. And again, this is really kind of gearing towards some of the positives, but also some of the negatives that can be flipped over to show how we could improve Sugar Land on itself. So another item is that crossing the major thoroughfares on foot felt somewhat unsafe. And as Elaine mentioned, safety was a part of our major consistent discussions. And I think that it will continue to be that way. I think it's a representation of what City of Sugar Land would want to go towards while providing a variable types of mobility within Sugar Land. And some of the other ones that Member Frank had provided an exemption to the newest development areas, the roads prioritize vehicular mobility over other types of mobility. The city does a fantastic job of keeping the roads maintained, and I completely agree. Not only the streets, but also within the entire right-of-way, it shows how Sugar Land has been doing a great job of maintaining. So next slide, please. Some of the insights of the other mobility insights from the tours itself. As mentioned, tours provide an opportunity to see other new places, and I mentioned that before, and I think it was fantastic. And I encourage the council members to take the tour, even all the residents. I think it was great, and I think we have those tour maps on the mobility website. Not to take away from what I think what's going to be coming up, but I want to encourage y'all to even take that tour yourself and see. Other insights from those tours is many nights, wide, smooth sidewalks, their existence, but they don't usually go somewhere. They don't connect to other areas, which it could be problematic, but it's something that we can look forward to correcting, or at least working around that. And again, that's part of what the ADA compliance curve. The ADA ramps are there, but it doesn't go anywhere. So other items, bikeway paths, they're bikeway paths all along trails and other locations, but again, it's not connected. There's no interconnection. But I know that we're working on it. We want to be able to provide that pathway from one location to another continuously. And some of the other ones here, drivers' behaviors and mindset can be challenging for the other drivers, walkers, bikers, wheelchair users. The question comes up, how can we make people more aware or think about other people in the public rights of way? And I think that's a very good comment in regards to that, partly because, City of Sugar Land can be very vehicular centric, and we want to be able to diversify and see what we can do for other mobility type, get the people from one location to another. Next slide, please. So the primary plan goals for the members. So as mentioned before, safety is paramount. We want to make sure that when we develop these mobility, we want to make sure that safety is considered on a number one basis. Multimodal. I think that's a very good way of looking at not just vehicular access, walking, biking, and other methods of getting to one location from another, and inclusive, connected, and being integrated. We want to be a regional leader. And I think as being using the technology, we want to show other cities, even city of Houston. Hey, we may be small, but we want to be able to lead the regional technology on how we adapt and be able to provide the various types of mobility for the residents themselves. And moving upward along the city life cycles, community focused, high quality of life, and we want, again, as part of that, we want to be a visionary around the region. Next slide, please. So with that, I will turn it over to Monique.
Thanks, Ojin. So next steps. So like I mentioned earlier, building that case for action to support the plan goals. So this is something that we are trying to wrap up by the end of this year and really start developing, getting to that goal development phase of the project. So looking forward to a lot of conversations and a lot of discussion about developing the goals with the Mobility Task Force. Next slide. So goal setting, we'll work on confirming that vision for superior mobility. As Ruth mentioned earlier, it's in our comprehensive plan, and so we want to make sure that we understand what that means. We want to define that and make sure that we have the community's buy-in for what that means. This includes getting input from all stakeholders, so the Mobility Task Force, our technical advisors, the surrounding cities, everyone who's been involved in the plan. And then we'll start focusing on developing metrics. So how are we going to measure the strategies that come out of this and make sure that we're attaining the goals. And so we anticipate presenting this to City Council in spring of 2021. Next slide. So there are several opportunities to engage. We've launched the website and the survey at the end of October.
We actually have an updated number. So as you can see here, we received 809 since November 13th, and the new number is 863. So we've been getting a lot of responses and a lot of feedback on the survey. Some of the preliminary feedback that we received were most critical outcome of the plan. So our top three are improving safety for all road users. And we've reiterated this throughout the presentation, and it's being reiterated through the survey. And so we continue to hear that. And encouraging healthy and active lifestyles, and then providing affordable transportation options. So looking at some of the top short-term investment priorities so far in the survey, we're hearing a better network of safe, comfortable bikeways and trails. And then we're also hearing traffic signal timing and coordination, and as well as street maintenance. So those are some of the top short-term priorities that we're seeing as a result of some of the surveys that we've been getting. Next slide. So again, we ask that you all go visit the Mobility Master Plan website and please take the survey. You all are stakeholders in this as well as residents, and you know, we want you to share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, and just tell everyone about the survey and tell everyone to take the survey and about the mobility plan. The survey will be open through December 9th, and you know, depending on the results of the survey, as far as you know, making sure that we get a diverse group of responses, you know, we may decide to extend that timeline, but our target right now is to wrap up on December 9th. We also encourage you all to take the self-guided tours. So this is something that we plan to put on the website. You'll be able to pick and choose which tour you want to take. So we invite you to do those, and also invite you to share those with the community as well. And so we'll continue online engagement through the website, email blast, social media, just using any kind of resources that we have to really get the word out and spread the word and get people excited and engaged for a mobility plan. Next slide. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would like to thank staff and the entire Mobility Task Force for all of the hard work that you've put into this and all of the work that you're going to continue to do on this. And I would like to invite Councilmember Jacobson to go on a bike tour with me one day. But now, out of curiosity, now, who prepared the survey that's posted on the website? Was that done by TEI or was that done by someone else?
All right, that was actually done by the consultant team. And Elaine, if you would like to, well, let me take that back. We all pretty much prepared the survey. There was a lot of work, a lot of back and forth between working with the consultant, working with staff, working with the strategic project team, which is the internal group of representatives from several departments. You know, PD, Public Works, Parks, economic development. Pretty much almost every department in the city is represented on that strategic project team. So it really was a collaborative effort. Now, of course, the consultant put it together and got it, you know, nice and pretty for us, but it really was a collaboration between the consultant team and city staff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I did get a little bit of feedback. I heard a concern about whether or not, say, there's 1,000 or 1,500, responses. Are the concern, I guess, about the citizens really reading about the mobility plan on the landing page on the website and really having a understanding of it prior to completing the survey? And then also got another comment that it was too long and maybe too time consuming, and concerned that people may not stay the course and complete it. And then also a concern about it being statistically significant, but in the context of all the other wide sources of community engagement that you're getting, I don't think there's, I think that concern maybe was misplaced, because they probably didn't understand when I got that comment that the public survey is just one type of community engagement out of a large number of types of different community engagements and input from a wide variety of stakeholders. And so how will you weight the survey compared to, I said, all the other different sources? How do you plan to sort of roll that all together?
Sure, I'll answer it, and if anyone else wants to jump in, they can. But the really intention of this particular survey is really to get an understanding of the community. How do they currently get around? Really just understanding them, their personal experiences, what they would like to see, just things that they maybe have thought about, just out and about in the city. So it's really for us to get an understanding of what the current state of the community and how they get around and everything. And so, yes, it's a huge input, especially into this building, the foundation portion of it, to understand and really understand what that case for action is, just based on some of that feedback. Like you said, there will be other opportunities where we'll engage as we go through each phase of the project. I mean, we're going to have a lot of engagement throughout this. So, yes, the website is an opportunity for people to learn about the plan. But we do want to make sure people understand that this is just that first initial step of getting that feedback from the community, understanding how they get around. And then, with that, along with what we're hearing from the task force and several other stakeholders, taking that and building that case for action. And then we'll definitely continue to engage them throughout the other phases of the project.
Okay, and thank you. And then I had a specific question. As someone said on question 6, it says, how important are these outcomes? And it lists 11 different outcomes, and then there's a place for other. And then it says on question 7, from the above list, what are your top 3 desired outcomes? But then they said that only 8 of the 11 choices listed above were available to rank, and they were wondering why 3 out of the 11 choices in question 6 that you were supposed to choose from were not available for you to utilize in question 7. For example, outcomes such as improving intersection operations was completely left off as ability to rank that in question 7. And I know that traffic technology is something that we're very important to us. And so anyway, was that deliberately done or accidentally done, or is that
Yeah, that's something we'll have to take a look at and look into to make sure there isn't something going on that we're just not aware of. But, we can definitely look into that and make sure that the survey is set up the way we intended it to be set up, and that people have all those options and can choose.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, because the feedback that I got from this person was that his top 3 choices were not available in question 7 for him to rank, including that improving intersection operations. So, thank you if you could look into that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for letting us know.
And Councilman Porter has asked, will the project include looking for non-Sugar Land funding opportunities?
About looking for other funding sources, outside funding sources. It could be grants, could be HGAC, et cetera. Is that what you're getting at, Steve? Yeah, okay. Are you going to be doing that is the question.
Yes, that's definitely something we're going to be doing. We've actually already started doing that, so we're not going to necessarily wait until the plan's adopted to start looking at some of those alternative funding opportunities. And so, yes, grants, any partnerships that we can develop with businesses, any kind of opportunities that we can leverage and think of, not just through this process, but even now, we wanted to make sure we can take advantage of that. But yes, we will definitely explore even more through this process.
Okay. Steve, you good? William?
Monique, William Ferguson here. I love that you guys are focused on mobility. I have ridden street road bicycles for a very long time, and I choose not to ride in some places out of fear. Not fear of my ability to ride, but out of fear of people texting and driving. And so I'm kind of curious where law enforcement fits in as you're doing your planning and your questions, and how you feel you can help people overcome simply the fear. I see you're addressing routes, sidewalks, things like that. But I've got to tell you, you could have the greatest sidewalks in the world, but when fear plays in, I would rather stay home.
That is a great question, and it's definitely something we've been talking about with the task force, and also with the strategic project team. So we do have Chief Allen as the police department representative on that strategic project team, and she's been attending those mobility task force meetings. We've been having these conversations with her, and it is something that we are going to have to have those. We're going to have to continue those conversations and really look at that through this plan. And so, yes, like you said, we can build, all the greatest infrastructure in the world, but, it's just really understanding and making sure that people are safe while they're using it. And so, those are conversations we are having, and that's definitely something that's on the top priority list, as Jen mentioned, from the task force perspective.
And
I don't know
last
if anyone
on,
else has anything to add to that.
last on that, Monique, I have been blessed to travel to other places that do have great mobility for cycling and also, just foot traffic, pedestrians. And I remember they had the flexibility geographically to make routes safer because they could go over or under roadways where we're somewhat restricted depending on where we're talking. So you have a huge task ahead. Your team has a huge task, but I commend you for facing it.
Thank you.
Could I
Go ahead, Jeff.
one
Yes.
thing? Hello, Council, Jeff Carlton. I think you bring up a great point, and we bring a lot of expertise of our team around helping communities evolve in these areas. And one of the keys to getting more people out biking is around creating safe networks. So it's really about thinking about a holistic network. That was one of the points that Eleni made. And that is really probably the biggest key to communities that have been able to get a lot more people to walk and bike is creating those holistic networks. And then you can layer on things like enforcement, education, access to bicycles, access to safe walking. And so we're really trying to think about it as a holistic thing, so we appreciate you kind of bringing up that topic. But one of the key elements is that level of stress. I think that's where you kind of, when we say level of stress, that equates to the notion of fear that you kind of mentioned. And really trying to keep people separated from high-speed, fast-moving vehicles, either through physical separation or, as you mentioned, different grades where that might make sense. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Monique. We'll wait to check back in with you after you get a little bit further along. Thank you all. Item number 7, City Council City Manager Reports. 7A, City Council Member Reports. Jennifer, start with you.
No report, Mayor.
Nishad.
Mayor, Councilmember McCutcheon, myself, and Mr. Ferguson attended this past Saturday a Diwali festival that they really commended yourself and then Mike, your entire staff, because it was put together last minute. They just didn't want to do it because of COVID and everything else, and started planning Thursday evening, and staff came through, and there's probably about 15 elected officials there and another 20 other people there, but they did it socially distant. They did a Facebook Live, and it's important to serve, to celebrate the importance of our diversity in our community. So, and I will say, Councilmember McCutcheon looks beautiful in a sari. she looked great, but that's it, Mayor.
Stuart, let's go to you.
Mayor, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Steve, do you want to type anything in?
He said no report.
Okay, got it. Carol.
Well, I would like to thank welcome Councilmember Ferguson to the team. Glad to have you. And I would like to echo what Councilmember Hermali said about mayor and staff pulling together so quickly to make the Diwali available to happen. And I would just like to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving next week.
William.
I would simply like to say thank you to each one of you for making this transition into council such a joy. I would like to also thank the staff here with the city for making this a wonderful opportunity to learn, and you guys are all doing a fabulous job.
I'm going to yield my time. We're going to go ahead. Mike, to you. City Manager Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, wanted to congratulate you and Ms. Lane on your reappointments and welcome William to the team, and we've enjoyed having you the last couple of days in the orientations. Also want to remind the public that our offices will be closed next Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving holiday, and we hope that our residents enjoy their time off as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Item number 8, closed executive session. 8A, closed executive session is authorized by Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with Section 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. At this time, we're going to take a brief recess and reconvene in closed executive session.